Now we'll have Dr. Ashwin Fernandes. I already see Dr. Ashwin here. Dr. Ashwin is the chair for QS India and the VP for Strategic and International Engagement. Hi, Namaskar, Dr. Ashwin. How are you?
Namaskar, Ankurji. Good to see you, and such
So
a
good
great
to
conversation. You need to do a TV show, Ankur. This is fantastic.
what a fantastic! You were listening, Aditi ma'am. I mean, it was amazing.
Yes. I joined a while back, so very good
Okay,
conversation. Yeah,
it's a beautiful conversation. Thank you so
and
much for
Aditi ma'am also fantastic.
fantastic.
Quite resonate that this can be a class at an IIM for sure. Yes.
It can. I mean, she just got an honorary doctorate at Wesleyan College in US. She was in US, just came back 2 days back, and I saw it on LinkedIn. I'm like, I messaged her on WhatsApp. I think you need to have a now. We can't just do a 30-minute podcast. You should come for a master class at IIM Ahmedabad. I mean, where we are doing the school leaders program, and we have three principals that have already worked with Aditi ma'am here in the program. So when I told them I'm hosting Aditi ma'am, they're like, okay, wow, we want to be part of this, and maybe they are listening in right now. But now, thank you so much, Dr. Ashwin. You are somebody that who is doing some fantastic work. I mean, celebrated again in the community, the work that you have done in the higher education space and putting India on the global map. I mean, globally, you have done fantastic work with, I think, decade and more with QS, if not 2 decades, closer to 2 decades. You have grown. Not only yourself, but your work has impacted hundreds of lives and thousands of lives if I am not, overemphasizing it. I mean, I have been blessed enough to know you for last at least half a decade or more, 5 years or even a decade now. I don't remember the years, but I know Dr. Ashwin from many years. I mean, you are now, you are an author. You wrote that wonderful book, India's Knowledge Supremacy, where I was part of the launch event that we did at in Delhi, and then you have been lucky enough to meet you at the QS India Summit quite regularly for past couple of years, where you have done amazing work in curating the content, in having those phenomenal people from around the world and giving them an understanding of India and the higher education space in India. I saw in last couple of years I have been at QS. I think this time around we even have Kapil Dev there, and you were moderating that session. That was a dream session for many of us in the room. That 1983 World Cup winning cricket captain was sitting with Dr. Ashwin, and we had that opportunity to see him in live and flesh. And so phenomenal. I mean, the work that you have done is phenomenal. So I want to start with the subject that we have for today is focused on rankings, and we are talking about the purpose and impact of rankings. Who benefits the most? Many of the times I see, and I have worked quite a bit now, almost 16 years in higher education space in universities, from Ashoka to Jindal to Masters Union to doing my own consulting work with many institutions. Every time I have a conversation around ranking, different stakeholders have different viewpoints. I mean, the university promoters, the chancellors, the vice chancellors become definitely very excited that we want to have, my world institution is world class, and let's have QS or some other ranking agency come in and give us those stars or whatever it is that they I can go around and showcase that this is how we are. And then you talk to students, and then the students will talk about, okay, hey, we want to have rankings because it helps us in identifying, so the good from the bad. Okay, I know that I want to apply to top 20, top 30, whatever is that list. And then there is another stakeholder. I mean, they that have their reservations on rankings, and they will talk about, and they can be faculty members, they can be administrators, and there is and then media. We read a lot of articles in media about the purpose of rankings. Okay, what is ranking missing out on, and why is ranking not so good a method to quantify or the output or the value of a institution or a university. So I think I chose this subject because you have been leading QS for many years, and I'm sure you have been reflecting on it. I know last time around also at QS Summit we had that debate with you, and I think it was Dr. Raj or somebody, I'm forgetting, that there was this nice debate on rankings. It was this year, I think the year before it, somewhere we had that. So what would you say? Dr. Ashwin, to people who celebrate rankings? What do rankings actually measure, and who do they benefit? Who is the actual beneficiary of, let's say, QS rankings?
Yeah. So, Ankur, you've been so generous with your words. So, thank you so very much, and thank you for inviting me. I mean, anything in the world today has got either people who like it or hate it, and I think we have to accept both parts of it. And without criticism, we can never make things better. The World University Rankings and several rankings produced by QS was created with a single purpose, primarily to help students make informed decisions. And if you look at, and I'll talk in the context of QS, we came out of the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania, where the founder wanted to specifically create a niche where he felt there was a gap in the MBA education, and both in choosing an MBA program and post MBA in terms of a career. So that's where the origins of QS come from. It's not from a multinational company trying to do rankings for for media or for other purposes. It purely came as a master's thesis out of a university. And today, as a global organization, QS focuses only on education. We don't do we don't do a lot of other things. We don't do anything outside of education, so we're very focused. And the ranking purpose, when we started in 2004, it was primarily to provide students with information on study abroad. At that time, internet was really very nascent. People were still getting used to it. And as a comparative global measure, when students went abroad, there was always a gap in understanding how the universities are doing. And that's firstly where we created these rankings, to be able for students to get that information. And I think in a current world today, there are about 7 million students studying internationally, and our purpose is to be able to provide an additional lens for them to look at which institution they should go to, especially when they're doing study abroad. It is not meant to be as a final deciding factor that, no, based on rankings, I should go here. It's supposed to be a way for them to shortlist institutions, look at, besides just the world, there are subject rankings, there are business school rankings, there are various other specialist rankings. So it's meant to help you in shortlisting, looking at where do you want to go, what is the purpose, are you looking to go to an institution which is doing great research or has good reputation. And I think over time, we've seen that these indicators have also started to appeal to governments, and that's why we're seeing today, be it China, and I will compare India directly with China. I'm not going to use Western power to compare with. China wanted to create the super universities, and the project they created was it's a 5100 project, if I'm not wrong. They use metrics to be able to ask the university to benchmark against. I think the challenge happens when institutions primarily use these rankings as goals, not as to understand where they are going. So, but at the end of the day, I think QS produces these rankings to help students make the decisions. And let's look at India in this case. I mean, students one side, let's look at countries on the other side. It has also helped India progress from where it was 15 years ago. I mean, I will use 15 because I've been with QS for 14 years. And at that time, we had less than 10 institutions in the World University Ranking. Today, we have 54 universities in the World University Ranking. Now, that's a huge jump.
Wow,
India is
amazing.
The fourth largest represented nation in the world rankings. And in the regional ranking, where we're measuring economies of Asia put together, India has made a 1000% improvement in its representation. So 200 odd universities in the Asia ranking. So one, it helps students make decisions. It also helps governments and institutions progress further. And let me give you one statistic before I'll pass it on to you. Is when we look at the top 1000 of the QS rankings, or you can use any rankings for that matter, about 800 of them come from 20 countries. And those 20 countries are, if you look at the GDP as per purchasing power parity, they are the top countries which in the world. So there's a direct impact of economies which are doing really well, countries which are doing very well, and the top universities. So almost 800 of them come from those countries. So we have taken the step forward into having university rankings understand how countries are progressing and how economies are progressing. Hence today, be it in the Middle East, be in Asia, be in Africa, the university rankings are becoming part of the strategy to measure performance. And hence, I think the beneficiary is again the students, because we get good quality education. Now, anything in the world has got its own perils, and I think if done extreme, you eat more food, you exercise more, which is supposed to be healthy, you can ruin yourself. So anything that is excessive of has a challenge, and I think that's why I like the title of the impact of ranking and who does it benefit. I think anything in moderation is good, but anything which is extreme always has a challenge. So I hope that kind of satisfies
Absolutely.
your first
Beautiful,
question.
beautiful. Thank you so much for articulating it so nicely. I think absolutely, and I am with you. I think rankings help, and you have spoken about it with data. 1000% increase in our institutions representing globally. India now has more than 50 institutions globally. Subject rankings we are improving. Our universities are doing very well, both public and private. I think those changes have come about in the last year, many years or so, because the government started focusing on rankings and trying to get everybody. I think it helps if you have a target that you are working towards, and that target is measurable, and you can find out. And what you said at the end, excess of everything is bad. And I think rankings are like knife. I mean, knife can be used to cut up fruit, and it can also be used for a lot of other harmful activities. So I think when you see people using rankings for a lot of other harmful activities, where they just focus on, okay, I just want to get into top whatever it is, and there's top research rankings or top this ranking, and they just focus on that ranking. Sometimes short-changing the process, sometimes accelerating the process by not having the right means. I think that's when a lot of friction starts in the community, and they're like, okay, we are following the right path. And I'm sure QS has its own way to identify malpractices or those kind of things that happen. But then they also talk about, okay, why is ranking not measuring my impact in that local community? I don't know if QS does that, but I have heard that in conferences where people will talk about QS over tea and coffee. Okay, QS is only focused on Scopus Index journals, and how many journals my faculty, how do they measure the impact of my innovative teaching practices, and it has less weightage, it has more weightage. I think there should be focus on giving more weightage to this element. So when this kind of conversation happen, I'm sure QS, you are a global organization, one of the most respected organizations in rankings. How does QS take this feedback coming from the global community of researchers, faculty, and institutions? If you can just talk about this aspect of rankings, which is quite, I mean, in media also, you do a Google search on rankings, and there are 5 articles that will be saying, okay, why rankings are bad. It's quite apparent. It's not, something which is hidden. So over to you.
So, Ankur, I think this is such a nice segue. And initially we were talking of, being domestic in the earlier panel, and now we're talking global. So I think it's such a nice way for you to kind of steer this conversation. Now, when we're looking at the impact of rankings in across the world, I think we first have to understand that things are moving very fast. Okay. And I think as a ranking agency, you have to have a ear on the ground. You have to listen. You cannot, and QS has never said that QS is the best ranking in the world, which checks all the boxes. And I think I give this quote to everybody from George Box, which said, the late George Box, and he said, essentially all models are wrong, but some are useful. And I think that's what QS is all about, is being a useful model to be able to benchmark, to be able to compare, to be able to have some kind of a goal in terms of understanding where you are and where do you have to get to. Of course, the ranking outcome shouldn't be the goal, but the journey into what you're going to measure against others and what should be the metrics in that journey is important. And I think I've been, as I said, 14 years now with QS. This is my 15th year. We have been listening, and we've been listening to people, we've been listening to academics, we've been listening to students, we've been listening to governments, but we do take feedback, and hence over the last many years the ranking methodology has evolved. We are looking at various ways how we can, of course, reflect reality on the ground. increase the scrutiny on the data submission, look at how to strengthen the academic and employee reputation part, verify various data points through various metrics and various processes. So I think we have been listening, and over the last many years, we have evolved. We have had new metrics come in. We have had kind of refinement of the existing methodology, and that is pretty evident through what we do. So the most important part of any ranking system is transparency in what we do. So we publish a lot of our, I would say a lot, we can't publish every detail. So because the moment you do everything, people will reverse engineer. So we do publish all the processes on how we do this on our portals. We give the information publicly on data submission by university. So all data submitted by universities is published on topuniversities.com. And that helps us, people to even whistleblow if there is there are institutions which are not being completely honest on data. People can whistleblow on that. But at the end of the day, as an agency, you have to have the ear on the ground, and that's what we do. We listen to students. QS runs student fairs, so literally 200 fairs in the world. So that means we are talking to the students on what is their opinion, what do they want to see in the metrics as well. And every year or every few years, there is some kind of revision where we keep up with time, and that's important to be able to reflect reality on the ground.
Perfect. And Dr. Ashwin, having known you, I know you are one person who always has his ears on the ground, and you are leading QS. I'm sure then again your team. Again, I've met many of your team members at many events, and you talked about the student events. I know for a fact when I was working with IMT Ghaziabad, we used to, there's a business school in India, and then they have campuses in Dubai and other places. We used to travel with QS fairs, and I think the openness and transparency that you talked about, that you really want to be as open as you can be. Some of the data, yes, it cannot be shared with everyone, but I think all those things help. And I just want to now also talk about one of the aspects that is also spoken about QS. And now coming back to India, we are, as you said, we are steadily rising global rankings. But the debate around, and we are living in an AI era, where the debate around employability is also now taking a lot of, let's say, put it, online conversation. People are having it in the West. People are thinking, is it worth going to a university? What are the outcomes of a university? Is it even worth the cost? And then the research impact. Then people talk about what is the relevance of research. I speak to, and I follow many faculty members even in the West that speak about, the research relevance is very small or negligible. The real world is a completely different thing, and academicians are now being forced by the rankings, if I was to use that term, by the rankings to just focus on research rather than focusing on the work, the real world impact. So, and then they are being incentivizing for coming out with certain number of papers in a year, and they're all, and then there's talk of plagiarism, and all of these things are happening. And this every day, I have set my alerts on few Google words. Every day I get some articles on all these subjects. If I have to read them, it will take me 2 hours. But I don't. I just take out of 1 or 2 articles, and I get a general sense of what the media is talking about and what our community is talking about. What do you say, Dr. Ashwin, to people how does QS look at the employability outcomes? And I'm sure QS has its metrics of rankings where they talk about what are the graduates up to after studying at XYZ university, and then this aspect of research and its relevance to the real world.
Mm-hmm. So you probably have seen the news if you have set the alerts that there are thousands of job losses at various of the tech companies. The same tech companies which were once saying degrees are not relevant are letting go of the people. And I think universities, of course, schools, and then progress onto tertiary higher education, prepare you for the world. I think there is a greater debate on the skills. That's something which QS has been looking at jobs around the world, looking at what employers want, and there's a different talk about that. But I think universities should prepare students for the workforce should be able to create the right skills, including soft skills. Unfortunately, rankings cannot cover everything. Rankings cannot cover curiosity, cannot look at the intellectual depth of what you're doing. I mean, it has proxies for quality, and those proxies have been evolving. And I think proud to say that QS is the only global ranking today which has employability and alumni outcomes as part of the World University Ranking. That means we are measuring what do employers want. We are covering that data. We are looking at the impact of universities with employers. We are also looking at a huge database of about 120,000 alumni around the world, and looking at the undergraduate and postgraduate education, and seeing and also giving that relevance as well. So if you're looking at the contemporary relevance of institutions beyond just reputation, beyond just academic reputation and research, we are also looking at employability. The general and the debate on research is definitely relevant, and QS has been looking at how do we look at bringing in measures to curtail practices which shouldn't be done by institutions just for rankings. But that's there are of course external databases like Scopus and Web of Science and others which provide this information. So I think there is work to be done. And if you remember again George Box, essentially all models are wrong, but some are useful. I feel there are some useful things the ranking does. It does provide you some kind of an understanding on performance. And I think it will evolve over time. I don't think we will ever get a perfect measurement or ranking system in the world, and that same goes for grading. Some people do exams, some people don't do exams. There's a debate on that, right? So earlier as well ma'am mentioned about assessment. So I think we will never have a perfect system as long as we are being useful, we are being referenced, we are listening, we are looking at metrics which cover contemporary relevance. We will be relevant in the future.
Absolutely. I don't know why people don't get it. I mean, this is what it is. I mean, rankings are supposed to do this. And I was again, my lived experience yesterday, we were in a branding class for education institutions, and the professor said here, what are brands? He said, brands are shortcuts. The human brain does not want to work too much. So a brand gives you that shortcut. Okay, if it is I'm Ahmedabad or it is QS, they would have done the due diligence and I can just blindly trust them. And brands help you doing that. And sometimes we start expecting too much from that brand, and then we are saying, okay, we want more shortcuts and we want you to do this also. We want you to do that also. Why are you not doing that? And then the customers some of the customers will start saying, okay, why is this person not doing that? So I think QS has now become that brand that we are all looking towards, and we are thinking, oh, QS should do this, QS should do that. But you're also right. We are living in a very evolving landscape where so much is changing. Where we are talking about job losses, we are talking about universities now rethinking their own models, and I'm sure that with AI and transformation that is happening around the world, and all the things that we keep hearing about, there are evolving models that you can't have a complete perfect answer to. We are not living in an ideal world. We are living in a very complex world where QS helps us in having that clarity. And I think that's the basic minimum. And then over that clarity, the bare minimum clarity that QS gives you, you have to do your own due diligence. And that is what I talk to my kids about. They have given you a starting point. Then you do your due diligence and talk about those 5-7 institutions that you like. Go and talk to their alumni. Go and visit them. Go and talk to the faculty. Do some of your own homework. But why do people do that, and why is there this whole hoopla around rankings? I don't get it. But I mean, everybody has an opinion. I'm free to do it. I mean, my personal opinion, I think rankings are great. Rankings help you in at least having a starting point, and then you start building on whatever the rankings tell you. You want to do your more due diligence. You want to have more elements. Go ahead, talk to people there, and find out what is happening in those elements. I mean, today is the age of social media, digital media. Everybody is connected. I mean, by second degree or third degree, I could have connections made. So, Dr. Ashwin, I am also conscious of the time. 4 minutes left on the clock. Audience, if you have any questions, comments, or feedback to Dr. Ashwin, please type in the chat box. We'll have him. And then next is we have Dexter. Already, I can see him in the chat box. Dexter is joining us from Crucible in Lusaka. In Zambia, and Dexter is doing some fantastic work. As he earlier worked with African Leadership Academy in Johannesburg for almost a decade, 9 years, working with high access, low income kid, and fantastic institution. So Dexter is here. but we have a couple of more minutes with Dr. Ashwin, so I want to ensure that
Ankur, one thing, I mean, you mentioned of Dexter as well, and I think I'll just like to go a little bit into
please.
the social impact, and I think you mentioned earlier
Yes.
on the community. I think work which is done by institutions in regions which need attention, which have we're looking at diversity and inclusion. So QS developed the sustainability rankings, which is now part of the World University ranking, because the children who are going into university today increasingly are asking the question not just how green the campus is. I mean, there's a tendency to have lots of trees and have solar panels and have water conservation, but being sustainable is much more than that. Looking at governance practices, looking at the student voice in the council, looking at publishing your annual reports and your financial reports, looking at women in leadership position, looking at having diversity in various forms on the campus, looking at inclusion beyond just the fee paying kids. So that is becoming part of the metric now. So as I said, we are evolving as well, and I think the system will evolve over the next few years. The rankings will not remain the same, and I think for those institutions which do look at specifically research metrics, research covers just 20% of the impact in the rankings. There is another 80%, which is reputation, sustainability, alumni impact, employer side of it, faculty student ratios. There are over 9 metrics covered in the World University rankings.
Absolutely. My final question to you, and this is from the Indian context, we see, and this is globally also relevant, I'm sure, many universities today, actively are collaborating with QS for ranking and understanding where can they improve. And there are reputation agencies. I know there are bodies which help, and not only QS, I mean, there are bodies which are helping with national rankings and a lot of debate around that as well. What would you say, I mean, where do you think this engagement creates genuine institutional improvement, and where does it risk becoming a marketing exercise disconnected from the real classroom reality?
So in terms of Indian context, I think one of the challenges I find with institutions is that we do some great work within the institution. And for schools, it is okay that the kind of geography of students is very domestic. But the moment we get into higher education, the geography transcends borders. Today, higher education has become global. When you look at some of the world's top universities, not even the top 1,000, beyond that, and we can look at how international faculty are coming in, how international students are traveling, doing semester abroad, doing several activities, with faculty involved, trying to have adjunct and professors of practice. So that is really where I think institutions need to start looking global. While for schools, you might just focus on a local demography, but higher education is beyond that, and hence you need to do more in brand and reputation. And I'm not saying plaster your ad on every television channel and the airline magazines, but genuine reputational creation is required. You need to go out, you need to speak about the work you do. It's no longer hum acha kaam karenge aur baith ke people will understand about us globally. No, you have to talk of your success story. You have to create awareness about it. And if people, I mean, you go to the same hospital where you go for a health check, you can also go for a surgery later, right? So if they do engage with ranking agencies to understand how they can do that in terms of perhaps understand the metrics, and then channelizing the kind of events agencies do, and not just ranking agencies I'm talking, and any other agencies, it would help institutions. I think that engagement is critical as they move forward, and looking beyond domestic is also important, Ankur.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Ashwin. Such an honor to have you. I know personally, I can say one of the most sincere person who is doing fantastic work, quietly, honestly, globally. And truly, I value my relationship with you, and what you're doing for the country and globally for higher education is phenomenal. More power to you. And we look forward to, I personally look forward to continuing our relationship. And then definitely we at Masters Union also look forward to working with you and QS to develop our own, as we go on our own journey of becoming a university now. Thank you so much, Dr. Ashwin.
Thank you so much, Ankurji. Have a good day ahead.